Our first presentation this morning for the demonstration is Choi. He's a professor at the Department of Global and Community Health in the College of Public Health at George Mason, and PhD candidate Megan Warner, who's in the Department of Global Health, a PhD student in the Social and Behavioral Science program. And so their demonstration is the AI-assisted grading and feedback in online discussion boards.
Stand on this side.
Okay, so thank you so much. And then this presentation is very, very light. You can really eat. You don't have to look at anything. It'll be entertainment. So this is a very well situated presentation for the lunch. So I just want to say that. So our topic is not really anything about our this morning's wonderful presentations we went through. Very, very high level, very visionary presentations. I very much appreciated, fascinated. Our topic is really about hands-on demonstration itself. It says it very much of a level of 0.1 competency. So really going over things that what we have done. This is almost like a show and tell of what we did, and in that as well. So my name is Daniel Choi. I'm a professor. I've been teaching over 20 years in public health related, and Megan, just say yourself and then mentioning.
I'm like too short for this. All right. My name is Megan Warner. I'm a PhD candidate, and I am lucky over the last year or two, I've been able to teach some classes as a graduate lecturer. So that comes into play a little bit from our results as having an experienced professor and then someone who's more new.
Okay, thank you. So we just said it not because of bragging about my teaching experience. Not at all. Not at all. It's just want to say about how AI could benefit to experience versus that initial experiencing teaching as well. So acknowledgement again. So appreciate organizing this wonderful event and all you are participating as well. So we studied this topic about a couple of years ago, year and a half. Want to do a scope and review study, AI in pedagogies in public health in higher education. And then we looked at it, our scope and reviews, and we studied it in publishing in the way of a review process of pedagogy in health promotion journal. And then we really dawned on us, like there is not very little actual hands-on in-class classroom setting, especially online teaching, of that study done. Not at all. It talked about a lot of high-level, conceptual, a lot of things, but that really drove into what we really wanted to further study on this. So, yeah.
So we came up with an idea of a project that we could do together to sort of use some hands-on AI assistance in the classroom, and we did it with the intention of like, how can we utilize this AI technology to really enhance our teaching, not replace it, but to enhance it and to make it a little bit, and see what it would, if it could make it better. And because from our scoping review and some of our other research, we found that enhancing a professor's self-efficacy about the use of AI really decreases their anxiety about using it and increases their ability to use it. So we wanted to contribute to that conversation. And so we'll kind of go through our methods and our results of what we did, sort of a show and tell of what we have been working on.
All right, thanks, Megan. So this is our methodology. Without methodology, there's no research. But our study is really exploratory in that regard. We just want to do something about hands-on using our own courses. So online courses async. Course A, Introduction to Public Health, GCH 300. Course B is Health and Environment, GCH 360. Online hybrid, online asynchronous courses in there. So further over the presentation, we're going to call it Course A versus Course B. The topics are in here. So we wanted to do this exploratory study. So we picked 10 students, a random sample of each of courses, and then we used grading rubric that already been using it in each courses as well. Each instructor, us, that we did on assessment using manual grading versus and others. So we did use very much of this is like a stopwatch. AI, it's high tech, and we're using stopwatch, actually using smartphone. Count the timed, how much time we spent, especially, for example, manual grading of those 10 students in each course, each of us, and then AI grading as well. So we calculated average, mean, median, range, kind of things as well. It's a very, very much very low tech. I told you, this is just, hands-on stuff. So, and then beyond manual grading, we wanted, of course, AI grading. So we used the two of those, Microsoft Copilot and also Perplexity in there. So we asked very specific things, but for that AI grading, we did not use any of our personal students' names, ID, and so on and so forth. We did not use any of those. For both AI, we did same AI prompt like this. Act as a faculty member in a College of Public Health and a university who is teaching an undergraduate course and using the following rubric grade this assignment. So the rubric we're going to talk about that briefly. Each course has own rubrics and other things. And we graded, and obviously manual grading we timed, and also AI grading we timed how much time we spent for the AI grading. So that kind of things as well. So we had in our mind that it's almost like we were curious, were there similar, meaning is manual versus AI to AI, Copilot versus Perplexity, which one is more lenient than the other, meaning is a score of the discussion board. How is the feedback compared between the human, us, instructors versus the AI, and how's the time spent per manual grading versus AI grading?
Okay, so this is just an example of the assignment. It was a written assignment the students did, and the rubric that was provided to the students that we used for grading. So we graded it manually like you would traditionally grade an assignment. You get it in your Canvas, you're going through your grader, you're grading it, you're looking at your rubric. These are results from my course. I'm an extremely slow grader. I've learned from this process because I'm new, and it takes me a long time to make sure I'm checking all my rubric boxes. Also a fairly lenient grader, it turns out as well. I've been working on improving that. But you can see it took me about 10 minutes per student to grade the 10 students that we used the random sample. So then we used, the first time we did this, we used Copilot, and then we wanted to see, well, how does Copilot and Perplexity relate to each other? So when I did it first, I fed the same assignment instructions and the same rubric into Copilot, and then put the assignment that they submitted into Copilot without any of their personal data. And you can see that it's much faster. You would assume that it's much faster. That wasn't really a surprise. The thing that I was more interested in was the scores and the feedback that come from the AI. Were they similar or not? And you can see Copilot graded, their average was 8.5, my average was 9.5, so it generally graded a little bit more harshly than I did. So then I took the same prompts and the same information that I gave to Copilot, and I fed it through Perplexity because I wanted to see how does Perplexity compare to Copilot, because I think it's important to know how your AI systems are performing for you. Like, how are they working for you, and are they are they calibrated to your grading style, to your teaching style, and which one is going to work better for your style? So you can see for the Perplexity, actually, I was really surprised, graded even more harshly than the Copilot. It took off more points overall. The average score across the 10 students was 7.7 compared to 8.5, which was really surprising. There was only one student who got the same grade from both Copilot and Perplexity from my 10. I think Dr. Choi had similar results. So I was really surprised by that as well. I thought there would be more similarity between the AI systems. I expected there to be differences between me and the AI systems, but I was surprised by the differences between the two. And you can see this is some feedback output that comes from, this was from Copilot. I asked it after I was done grading to create me a summary, and this was an example of the part of the summary table that it created. So that I think is really useful as a teacher when you're grading to see this summary of what, and you can kind of get an overall look of where students were taking off points or losing points. I asked Perplexity to make me a table. I gave it the same prompt, and this was the table it gave me, much less detailed. I don't think it looked as good. And then I asked for some key takeaways from the class, like some key feedback from the class takeaway, and that's what you can see in the box at the bottom. So I thought it was interesting that the feedback given was different, and I think that that's really important if you're going to use AI at all in your classroom grading to sort of figure out which style you like best and which style works best with your grading strategies.
So switch the slightly gear of your course B. So obviously the assignment, that rubric, is given to here, used as a manual grading as well as AI grading as well for the course B. So manual grading, 10 samples here took about an hour in there, average and other things. I was a fast grader. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the score. Scores, manual grading is 9.2 and median 9.3. So they put that number in your register in your brain, and we would like to just briefly compare to the AI grading as well. So again, this is a manual grading. I did myself grading in there. So just sample of 4 students out of 10. So kind of numbers and then the instructor feedback in here. Typically, I do for the traditional grading perspective. And then course B in here, Copilot AI grading in here took about 24 minutes. And then the point of the score is 8.7. So is this less or a little bit harsher than and the manual grading? First is Perplexity AI grading. So timing was similar overall, meaning is AI to AI grading. The span time was similar. I mean, obviously, you have to push a button. We didn't count that number, but overall, using the AI, so it was about that. About 1/3 of the manual grading time of it. The scores, kind of as Megan mentioned, that was 7.65 compared to 8.7 in Copilot. Perplexity is less, and then AI grading was less or harsher than the other way around. So one good thing, some positive way looking into way of in here. So after we put all those AI grading and after Copilot AI grading, ask the AI that provide summary of a discussion board, meaning it's 10 students of those, feedback and the tips, which for the next session, which this one was about week number 2. So Copilot provided AI grading. I didn't do any of editing anything. This is exact look from Copilot. It does providing little nice cute icon, those image stuff in there as well. It did provide week 2 discussion board, feedback tips, and then what went well, areas for improvement, and tips for week 3. So I'm not going to read in each one of those areas over there. First is Perplexity, is the same prompt, the asking that provide a summary. I asked, can you, AI, provide discussion boards, feedback, and tips? And then there is that Perplexity provide a few improvement areas and listed in here. Perplexity seems a little more interested about their citations and also quality of references versus Copilot didn't care too much of it. It did care, not too much of it. So perplexity is, that's why I think more reduction of those points out of its perplexity. One good thing is perplexity provided, for example, provide at least one reliable sources such as CDC, WHO, EPA, et cetera, in the perplexity feedback, but Copilot did not provide any specifications of it in that regard. I mean, again, as a human, us, instructor, have to look there, one in each, but slightly different way of providing feedback. And then good thing, again, this nice one is the tips for the success for next week, providing certain things to be improved in here, there as well. So there was feedback we got here, yet we did not provide this feedback to students yet. The feedback we did was from the manual only at this time, but that could be related to our future study briefly. We're going to talk about that after this discussion.
We're almost out of time, so I'll just quickly, a few discussion points. There are definitely differences in how the AI graded, and so I think someone said it earlier, we have to be human-centered. It carries through here to this as well. Like, we can't just turn our grading over to an AI system, and we are not suggesting that, but I think it could be used as a helpful tool, especially if you have a really large class. From my perspective, I think it can be really helpful as a training tool for new faculty to sort of see areas to improve your grading. It's been extremely helpful for me to see, like, oh, I could really improve my feedback and the way I'm providing feedback to students. And so I think that has been a really helpful thing that has come out of it, and I think it could be used as a helpful tool for new faculty. Also, one of the courses I teach has like 10 sections. I think it could be helpful if there's a lot of teachers teaching the same section of a course to maybe provide some similarity in grading styles across the sections. Those are just some ideas that we had from our discussion. And did you want to say anything else? Oh, okay. And then I think that is it from us. So we will turn it over to the next presentation.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay, now it's a pleasure to introduce Crystal Boyce. She's a health and bioscience librarian at George Mason University, and her demonstration today is Yours, Mine, Ours, and Theirs, Information Boundaries in the Age of AI.
Excellent. Okay. So just as an additional introduction, I have been at Mason for about a year. One of the things that I do in my work, I am on the Mason Library's AI Advisory Council, and we are putting together an AI boot camp for graduate students later this summer. So if you're here at Mason, absolutely encourage your students to attend. So you are a group that is already deeply invested in the ethical appreciation of information boundaries. Federal, state, institutional, disciplinary guidelines define how you work with data, information, and artifacts that, are related to students, to research, to the administrative side of work, but you're also committed to the ethical stewardship related to patient and community data. So given that, one of the things that I want you to think about as you're thinking about AI tools and what we are or are not giving to those AI tools is the concept of access, and the idea that access does not equal ownership. I have a matrix that I'm going to show you in a second, but ultimately what I want you to leave with today is the two questions about whenever you're dealing with something is, how do I have access to a particular piece of information? How did it come to me? And then how do I control what happens to it? Like, do I have the ability to control it? So we love a good visual. I have this broken down into a quadrant where you can consider the relationship between high and low control and then high and low access. And I have framed everything here in terms of artificial intelligence. So I'm thinking specifically of large language models, not necessarily tools that are embedded in healthcare systems, for example. So think about things like high control and high access information as what is yours. These are the things that you have the rights and the permissions to share. This might be your unpublished work that you are writing alone. This might be a picture that you have taken on your phone, right? Oops, forgot about that. We've got a thing. You decide and you can share how something gets shared, right? Now think about something that is high control but low access, something that is also yours, but in some way it is private, protected, or not ready to share. Examples here are things like manuscripts that you have submitted for publication that have been accepted by the journal, including the things that have already been published. Projects that you are collaborating with others on, you do not have full access. This also includes things like data sets that are IRB protected in some way. You can think about things that are low control, but low access but high control as things that are mine. So you can use this under specific conditions. Examples here would be pretty much anything that you're getting from a research database, anything that you are getting that has a licensing agreement associated with it. Think about things that are also high access but low control as things that are open, but there's still context. Control is distributed some way. With the mine example, this is where we typically see proprietary data, proprietary information. Ours is what we in the library field think of as public domain information. So this is something that you might get from WebMD, but it is still, there's a context going on there. And then lastly, I want you to think in this framing about low access and low control as handing something over to an artificial intelligence tool. Once you hit submit on your prompt, you are handing over control of your prompt, whether that is just text that you have created or any documents that you are uploading, any data sets that you are thinking about having it interpret for you. You are handing over the control for that to the system. So we're going to keep this in mind as we work through a sample assignment. So real world, we're thinking about an example. You are teaching a class, you are asking Claude. You're saying, generate a scenario about vaccine hesitancy in rural populations that you want to use for an assignment. This is obviously a very simplified prompt. As you create it and you hit enter, it is yours. Again, we're using that framework. It is yours until you hit enter, and then it becomes this momentary nebulous thing of theirs, where the AI is parsing it and then it's creating an output for it, right? Now, it becomes ours once AI gives you a prompt because AI cannot own anything that it creates. That's just copyright and intellectual property. And then as you use it in your assignment, it's mostly yours, but again, that's an ish there because, like, did you create it kind of deal. Now, you've given this to students. They are being called to work on this assignment for populations and communities that they are not familiar with. One of them is turning to Grok, and they're saying, hey, help me get started with identifying stakeholders. Again, this is a prompt that's belonging to the person who is creating the prompt. It becomes the machines as it does that parsing. Large language models are trained on a variety of sources, which includes that which could and can be scraped from publicly available sites like WebMD, the CDC's website, Wikipedia, so on and so forth. Grok is interpreting your query, and then it is pushing it out. So then again, it's ours and that it's a public domain kind of thing. And then it is the students' information as they choose how they engage with that prompt. Obviously, if they are copy-pasting something, then you've got an academic integrity potential issue. But if they are using it as a tool to inform how they go about it, that is the faculty interpretation of the use. Another student in the class asks DeepSeek to find reference sources for their project. DeepSeek delivers a list of 10 citations, all of which look relevant based on the output. Now, the output appears to be mine, licensed academic literature, but in actuality, it is becoming theirs. This is not a boundary violation. It is more of an epistemic concern, because when you're working with an AI tool like Grok, DeepSeek, Claude, ChatGPT, most of these are not dialed into research databases where you can get that level of access. They are generating content. This is where we get like the idea of hallucinations. We see this a lot less as these tools have become more refined. But this is an epistemic of issue of what does the student understand that they are doing. They are not actually searching a database, they are querying a tool that can just generate some content. And then, it is, again, mostly theirs at that point. So another student in the class is asking Copilot to summarize the key findings and cross-reference themes in articles that they found, the student found, legitimately in research databases, and then they've uploaded the PDFs of those documents into Copilot. This is a clear information boundary violation. Copyright governs the access and control of intellectual property rights. Regardless of whether it is found in an open access journal or whether it is something that you are accessing through a research database, there are licensing terms about what we can do in terms of redistribution of those things that we have accessed. And so as soon as the student takes it and uploads it to an external LLM, for example, there is a boundary violation in terms of information that's happening there. Now, I forgot to mention earlier when I talked about DeepSeek to remind everybody that Virginia state employees are not allowed to use DeepSeek on any university or state devices, so just FYI. And then, with this last one, a student is asking Gemini to identify themes in interview transcripts that they did related to the project. This is also one of the most high-risk information boundary violations here. Depending on, how the project is structured, the interview transcripts might be like a yours or mine, but as soon as they're uploading it to the LLM, it becomes more data on which the LLM is being trained. This is a potential trust violation for the community, and if students don't know what's happening there, there's a real opportunity for soured relationships that could be happening there. Now, not to argue with Dr. Choi here, but let's say a GA has been assigned to evaluate these student works, and then they upload all of the student works without the permission of the faculty member who is overseeing the student, and they're uploading the rubric into ChatGPT. They're saying, help, I ran out of time, please do some grading for me. Again, we have a major boundary violation. We are stewards of student work. It is still their intellectual property, even while we are stewarding it, regardless of whether we have the physical or digital copy in our hands. The other thing here is, of course, that the rubric that has been created is the intellectual property of the faculty member who created it. So there is a fundamental concern here about what is being shared where and whether the appropriate permissions were had to share it. So in each of these steps in the life cycle of a sample assignment, information moves across a boundary. This happens all the time in the course of our normal life in higher education and in public health. We just happen to be more cognizant of a lot of those boundaries, but AI tools just makes everything fuzzy and unclear. So I want to remind you to ask yourself 2 questions about how do I have access to the information and do I control what happens to the information? And then 3 rules to keep in mind. Access is not ownership. Just because you can access something doesn't mean that you have the control and the ability to determine what to do with it. If you don't know if it's yours to share, ask an expert. Librarians are experts in these sorts of things. IRBs are experts in data management. Your IT departments look at whether your institution has created a data governance policy or data privacy around artificial intelligence systems. And then lastly, if it's not meant to be shared, don't give it to an AI system. Obviously, there's a lot of nuance here and a lot of things that are getting summarized, but this is just an example of something that you could, for example, share with a student that might be understandable for them in terms of the high access versus low control moments, thinking about Netflix videos that somebody else creates versus public domain videos and pirated movies. Awesome. Thank you.
After our third presentation, we'll invite all the presenters to come back up for people to ask questions. So our third presenter is Sanja Avramovic. She's a professor in the Department of Health Administration and Policy in the College of Public Health at George Mason. And her demonstration's on transforming experiential learning from AI dependence to augmented thinking.
Hello, everybody. And the whole day we are listening how these tools are cool or how these tools could make some problems. We are talking about robotics, we are talking about AI. And the whole morning I'm thinking about one awesome story which will go well with your lunch now. And that story, it's very old. It was written in 1951 by Asimov, and the name is The Fun They Had. It's about future society in which a student has a robot as an instructor. And then students find a very old book which describes our traditional approach, you know, instructors in the classroom and students in the classroom. So after this presentation, we'll have a student panel so we can ask them how fun is to be in our classrooms. And also we could ask them if they think actually that a fun would be to have a robot which would replace us. That's also maybe an interesting question. But let's go back to how these tools could actually help us as instructors to have a better learning outcome and to improve our teaching. So we had a lot of conversation about bad things with AI. So yes, we can see this since 2022. Until now, the students just put a question in AI tool, generate the answer. They don't think, they don't analyze, they don't do anything. They don't engage at all. They just copy paste that in our homework or exams, and it's bad. And the research proved that they are losing critical thinking skills. So how we started testing this immediately. College of Public Health was, and my colleagues, we started publishing papers from the almost day one. In, I think, October 2022, ChatGPT came out. The first thing that we jump into is, our exams. Let's test our exams and each questions, exams, homework assignments against these tools to see the answers. Then the next step was GitHub with Copilot. And I remember reviewers were asking, why this tool? Because that was a hot tool at the moment when we were testing it. So we continued doing, and all those tools are popping up every day since then. So as I said, we're testing our exams, and I didn't introduce myself. I am teaching what our students love the most, math and programming. We can ask them as well if that's their favorite subject. Maybe the answer will be a little bit different. So these are my my questions. These are assignments that they had to do, and the answers are given by AI tools. So yes, in programming, in math, you have a lot of problems. And personally, I don't think that, especially in this field, we will be replaced with AI, because our field is very specific, and majority of straightforward and most common programming answers cannot apply because, for example, they are not, they cannot reply using that code in a reasonable amount of time, because we work with EHRs, we work with claims, those are humongous databases. You have to optimize your code, and AI tools are still not very good in doing that. They will give you the most common syntax, which very often cannot be applied in my field. So, but then we started thinking, okay, we are so, and we must check for integrity. We must check check if students are cheating. But how about to check if these tools actually can help us to optimize our time, to make our lectures better, to increase grades? And the first thing that we did is, let's try, actually two things are things that we tested first. First, can I take my math problem with, ABC, 1, 2, 3, and put it in a clinical sense, in clinical environment, so that, for example, if a nursing student is taking my intro in health informatics, which has a little bit of math, can we make it more interesting and more applied to in clinical content so that they understand and solve it easier? AI tools are awesome for that. They did an amazing job. They even created some questions that I even didn't think that you can actually use those particular examples, clinical examples, which are applied math. And the second thing that we start doing is, again, something that probably most of our instructors love the most, creating asynchronous videos. Oh, how much time we spent in making those videos, how many times we had, and then they offered us editing tools, and we are so not experts in making films and all those things. So is it possible that AI can help us in something that we're really not experts in? Oops. And that is the second thing that we did. I will just show you a few minutes.
Hello, I am Judy, an avatar organized by Dr. Avramovic to give this lecture. In this presentation, we'll walk through the steps of calculating the business value of IT by analyzing data using Excel. We'll start by calculating correlations between budget, records in Vista, EHR, and CPP using.
Okay, I don't want to teach you business value, but I wanted to show you how those avatars look like. And I was very transparent. I told my students that these videos were made by AI tools. And as you can see, she's always doing this gesture. She has a little bit monotone voice. Students hated that. The first class that I had, that I put this, I was so happy because her accent is beautiful. Everything is so nice. It's quick. I thought it's awesome. They hated it. They said, don't you dare not to do your job. Literally, that sentence came back to me. I said, I thought she's excellent. Nope. And then the second question that I asked them, do you want me to remove all those videos from the lecture? The same answer, don't you dare. They are excellent supplemental material. Leave them, but teach me. I want you to teach me. So that was an undergrad course taken by many different students from many different majors. So that is why I actually use that to allow them to have different teaching materials for the same. So reading material, my lecture, videos, and so on. So then I started thinking, okay, this is very good for students because we have very diverse student body. So everybody is different learner. So how to give them a little bit more of those differences so that we improve them even better. So you probably heard for AI agents. And we started experimenting with AI agents in our classes. And we did, this is one example from an undergrad, the same lecture that you saw. This is calculating business value. It's a very easy, I will not say very easy, but it's not a very challenging assignment for our undergrads. It's calculation of correlation. It can be done in Python or Excel. Students will pick up Excel, let me tell you immediately, because it's easier. They just need to select and use Corel function. I'm teaching this class probably for 10 years, and I know exactly what students are asking. What is that difficult? How to select, how to use the function, where to put equal sign, and so on. So we built an agent based on what we know, what students ask, and how they will answer the question. You see, I couldn't share this in a live presentation because the course is live, and you can see the students. So because of FERPA, I just made a screenshot. So you have the question. Here is the link. Click on the link. the agent pop-ups and asks you, how can I help you? And then it will not answer the question if you say, solve me this problem. So there is no copy-paste. But you can ask, how should I start? And of course, the agent will say, it's a good question. But after that, it will actually lead students step by step. If a student has another question, if doesn't know how to, for example, what is the function, it will give some ideas and some help, and step by step, student will solve the problem. In the end, student is the person who solved the problem, and they're submitting their work with help of AI agents. So we tested this on many courses, from 300 level undergrad course, we went up to 800 level graduate course, and we are still collecting data. We are preparing this for a submission. All other stuff, actually, we published, my colleague and me, I think there is total or 4 or 5 papers that are out based on all these things that we did. And the point is to use AI tools in a meaningful way and to engage students and not to ruin their critical thinking skills. So this is what it's doing. Guided problem solving, developing that reasoning step by step that I am pushing with those questions, apply deliverables and AI-human collaboration. Why this is actually a good use of AI? First of all, it's built in, I try different agents. I will focus on our Patriot AI because it's built inside our canvas, and it's not any kind of FERPA possible violation because everything is there. And also, we are giving those leading answers, so we are creating it for students. And students liked it in our, because we always do a little research thing, cases, controls, pre-test, post-test, survey in the end. So students actually tell us when we compared 2 different AI agents, one proprietary and one ours, Patriot, they liked Patriot AI better. And we had better results with that. It doesn't mean that the other is not good. It just means that our students felt maybe more comfortable being inside Canvas, or actually that is something that they liked better. There is a lot of other things that we should research and answer those questions, why this and not that, but that's not yet done. So this is how it works. So you have a prompt, AI-guided reasoning, student applies that reasoning and submit its own original things. So let's talk just a little bit about results. I have a few more minutes. So as I said, we did undergrad, graduate courses, several courses. We are now collecting results from this current summer semester, and we are invited to submit an invited paper in early fall. So I think that these results will be done until then. There is interesting, I told you that almost 100% of students ask to keep AI recordings as a supplemental material. When we are talking about my lectures, they didn't want me not to, how they said, do my job. But when you have other materials, which is reading, where I didn't provide a lecture, but I gave them some reading material, they actually preferred AI. Also, I saw that when you put that picture of Avatar, they just hate it. But if you remove it and put just your lecture, your PowerPoints narrated by Avatar, they like it much more. Maybe those avatars are still, I heard a lot of this is robotic, and that is why I don't like it. So maybe those future students were right when they say it's such a big fun to have non-robotic lecture. Also, let's just mention learning gains. We measure that as well. So we have learning gains a little bit bigger in undergrad. Maybe the students in our undergrad program learn in a little bit different way. Maybe they're younger, they have a little bit less experience with college level classes and so on. Learning gains in undergrad was almost plus 9%, and in graduate is 6.5%. So let's go back to the beginning of this story. I don't think that robots and AI tools will replace us, not yet. But I think that there is a lot of potential that we can use them to make lectures better. We can use, I just did that accommodation checking on my course, and I use AI tools to improve it. It's 99% right now. I have a few more things to check. Terry will be very happy for that, up to 100%. But it can provide a lot of help in that as well. Also, I had a student with problems with vision, with problems with hearing. So for all those things, giving them different options of the same material is just good, because we have very different learners. I started with that we have diverse learners. We have diverse in educational levels. We have diverse in many different things. So providing them diverse material will just improve their learning experience and their knowledge. So I hope that our students will continue this topic about, I hope that they will not want to replace us with robots. We are still here for them, to help them to have successful careers and to, as I said, improve their knowledge and learning. Thank you. I will not touch anything.
Okay, I'm going to invite our presenters to come back up to the stage and open the floor for any type of questions that you may have.
Hi, Jamie Atchison. So I think this question is for Crystal, but feel free others to chime in. So you mentioned how sometimes how it can be a little bit fuzzy on what you can input or not input into an LLM. And I thought it was a little bit more clear-cut if we are using an enterprise-grade solution in terms of LLMs. When it's enterprise, it's not training the model, and the provider, let's say whether it's ChatGPT or whether it's Claude, you have a written agreement that if you have the enterprise grade model, it's not training the model, and you can put proprietary information and it won't be shared publicly. So from your perspective as a librarian, could you shed light on your thoughts on the matrix, which I found extremely helpful, so thank you. How does that matrix apply when you're using that enterprise grade solution? So for example, perhaps the previous team who presented, maybe they are using an enterprise grade, so maybe they don't have that big red stop sign violation, right? So if you don't mind shedding light a little bit about that, in the case, there is a difference on when you're using a public facing solution that is training models versus not. Thank you.
Right, and I think that is it working? I don't think it's, okay, there we go. So yes, absolutely, and that is one of the things that most non-expert users, when approaching an AI, aren't necessarily considering the enterprise versus the commercial version of something. So I had a conversation right before this about potentially uploading a PDF of a document into Documate, which is a product that George Mason has within Patriot AI. That is an acceptable use because of the agreements that have already been put in place around internal only redistribution, because it's not redistributing out to the larger commercial thing. And a student isn't necessarily going to have an understanding that Copilot or Patriot AI is going to be serving me differently than if I go out to ChatGPT, right? So absolutely, nuance. There's always a situation in which the answer is yes and no. Thank you.
So this question is for Sanja. So I will say, first of all, as a student who previously took one of your classes and had the math and coding in it, we still talked about zombies and ghosts, so it was still fun. That's from her class, sorry. But I want to say that I love the idea of the utilizing the agents as part of the teaching method, and I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit more specifically about what tools exactly you were using to develop that and then how you integrated them into your courses.
So we have Patriot AI system, so when you log into your tools, you can find it, and then we just grab that tool and put our assignment and then write steps that should be done when you want to solve the assignment. So, for example, it's the same like I'm doing during my office hours. So a student comes and says, I really don't know how to put these weights. So then I explain sometimes with an apple, how you cut apple. If you take one piece, that's 1/4 of that apple and so on. But then in the same way, I build that AI agent and the students will have actually my office hours in that. We did Claude AI, and that is another tool that students really didn't like. And I said, I have to do survey. I'm not sure why, and why we had that very bad experience and bad results with that tool. Maybe we didn't develop it in the same way. Maybe students just, I don't know. We didn't answer that question. Yes, we will continue working. But if Patriot AI works well, I like testing the other tools, so that is why I will probably do it again. But now in this particular class, we are staying with that tool because it performed very well in the previous semester. And that is why we are continuing doing that. But my goal was actually to remove a huge number of the same questions during my office hours. So I have a line of students asking the same questions when something wasn't clear. So I want to clarify that so that I can spend more office hours to something which is different, or to have all students being able to ask the question. So that was the goal of AI agents.
Thank you all for fantastic presentations, just really informative, instructional, and eye-opening. Deeply appreciate it. It was stimulated by all of the presentations. I did want to get back to Sang and to Megan about your assessment, and it seems as though we're on a continuum of subjectivity to objectivity. And so here you were doing manual grading, and then you had Copilot, and then you had Perplexity. And the big question is, which one was the truth? And so I'm very curious to hear, as you assessed the perspectives coming from the machine, to the extent to which you said, that's really off base, or no, that's pretty fair. And in fact, that criticism or that concern or that additional points taken off were what you would agree with. Because as Megan said, the idea of using a really standardized rubric that would generalize across all 10 sections of a class, in some ways, I believe we're trying to get there, out of complete fairness. But the gray area is, well, which one's the truth? So what are your thoughts about that?
Thank you so much, Dean Perry. So we would like to believe we human are truth, in a sense. But human also, one of the things, it would be human factors. It is. We get tired. We have a time crunch. We also did not talk about too much of it, but they might have some biases, human biases. So in a sense, looking at that again, I think our intermediate or almost like a current way of looking at AI is helping tool to the human, us instructors, doing that. For example, some of the things have not provided specific feedback through the AIs, but some of AI's feedback is very eye-opening to me. That I looking at it, I put in my brain, digest it, I use for the next time, not as an AI, but as my understanding of my kind of almost like research to me, in a sense. So that helps, in a sense. So I'm gonna pass it on to Megan.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think one thing that we have talked about is that the AI isn't able to really read in the gray areas. So like as a human grading, there's some gray areas there, or there's some nuance that maybe the AI doesn't pick up in the grading assignment. So that's why I say we're not a proponent to just like turning over the grading, because I think like it is helpful to see like, oh, why is this taking off points? Oh, it shouldn't have done that. It was reading the rubric wrong, or it wasn't really understanding the assignment correctly. And so like checking it, but in some ways it's helpful because it'll give like, I found it to give good feedback, especially positive feedback. They're like, you did a really good job of describing this. Or it'll catch something like they only addressed 3 points and not 2, or 2 points and not 3 points that maybe you might have missed when you're grading 40 assignments over the course of a day or something. So I think, to say who's the truth, I would have to say like us as the humans, because I think we want to keep it human-centered, but I think we can use it to sort of assess how we're doing. Like you were saying with the bias, like it kind of also keeps us honest, like as we get maybe grading fatigue, like as like over the course of the assignments or anything like that.
I'm actually curious. My personal experience with Claude Cowork has been that it didn't know me very well at the beginning, and then over time it started to learn my preferences. And so now I actually feel like it's a co-creator because it understands me. So for the tools that you're using, how much context have you given them and spent that time to set up the environment that perhaps, I think, Copilot might be too general. How do you narrow it down so that it knows the course material that you delivered? Are you doing that kind of work in terms of how do you actually improve the system? And I will mention, the human factors. Where could we supplement AI or help us overcome some of the human factors that we know we're biased algorithms as well? So where could we use the AI, to Dean Perry's point, to perhaps help us be better humans and not have those biases?
May I just jump in? Algorithm is biased because of us, because it's learning
Exactly.
what we are doing.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I think one of maybe you, or maybe I think you did that, talked about briefly and talk about things like we are authenticity of us itself. So human factors that, in a sense, looking at that, the system-wise as expertise is one thing. As an instructor, for me, the topic itself, I believe myself, health and environment is my topic. I think I know something about that. So whatever AI does, human does, student does, when I read it, I can catch some stuff. Even if from the AI. AI can do other stuff that's not true, actually, they're giving to you. So I catch those things, in a sense. I think maybe you did the panelists mention about human expertise, assessment in AI system is critical, in my mind, in a sense. We have to bring that in, who was the expert, human, not AI, and then assess the AI's context.
So I will add that I started using ChatGPT in 2023, and I was a fairly heavy user of it until about January of this year when various things happened. And it got to know me, all in quotes, really, really well in terms of the interactions that we would have and then the feedback that I would give it when it's trying to give me, for example, a description of how Boolean logic works at a really advanced level, and I'm like, actually, that's not quite right. You're misinterpreting the math there, and then it started getting it right. But at the same time, the level of prompting that you're giving it is going to really influence it. And so, like, I started using Copilot earlier this year. And it's a better tool when you're looking at it from a business perspective than necessarily like a ChatGPT. Like the output is a different sort of tailoring based on the training that it's been getting.
And I try to teach ChatGPT how to calculate AUC using SQL. I can teach my students in one class. I gave up. It couldn't get it. So I just gave up. And yes, ChatGPT is not very good for programming. Claude is better, but I did it for fun. and he didn't get it.
Please extend applause of notation for our panelists. Thank you very much.